With this job, I'm thinking if I rock the boat, because I don't know whether I'm going to get another contract. There's a million authors behind me wanting this. I don't want to be the awkward author, although I see a lot of awkward authors still getting all their book deals and things, but I'm trying to be the nice author who always meets the deadlines, who doesn't kick up too much of a fuss. And I don't think that gets you anywhere, to be honest. It doesn't get me the loyalty that I thought it would.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Conversation with Nadine Matheson. Not only is this episode 99 of The Conversation, it is also the final episode of 2024 because yes, today is New Year's Eve and we made it. We did it. Give yourself a pat on the back. You have made it to the end of the year. You have made it through Christmas. I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas break. And I hope that you're excited for 2025. I'm really excited. I already have some amazing conversations lined up for the new year. I have a great conversation to start off January, which will be episode 100. And I'm finding that really hard to believe because next month, or the end of next month, this conversation podcast would have been going for 2 years. And I didn't think I would be going for 2 years. In fact, I didn't think much. I'm the kind of person, I just decide to do something and just see what happens, which is completely different to how I am as an author. As an author, I'm very much a planner. But with other things in my life, I just decide, yeah, seems like a good idea. Let's see how it goes. And I'm glad that I decided to see how this podcast goes because it's going really well. And I enjoy talking to my guests every single week. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to everyone this year. And I can't wait for you to join me next year. So however you choose to celebrate New Year's Eve, whether you're on your own, playing music and decide to go to bed at 5 minutes past midnight, or you're having a party with family and friends, or you are standing outside freezing your off at Tower Bridge watching the fireworks. However you choose to spend it, have the best New Year's Eve and I wish you all the best for 2025. And my final guest for 2024 is the brilliant author, Jo Jakeman. We talk about her new novel, One Bad Apple, and we also talk about how the TV version is so much different to the real life version of being an author. Her experience of being sued after a reader accused her of defamation and the best way to respond to reviews. Now, as always, sit back or go for a walk and enjoy the conversation. So, Jo Jakeman, welcome to The Conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Right, my first question for you is, when you, before, you got your deal, you got published, did you know what you was letting yourself in for in terms of...
Not the slightest. I thought I was letting myself in for like red carpet events and a yacht. This is not quite, no. You don't know, do you? I think when you're an aspiring writer, I don't think you think past that next step. I think we're all guilty of that, even though no matter where we are in our career. I think I wrote thinking, wow, I'd love to get an agent. And then you think that's the deal. You think, oh, I've got an agent. And then it's like, oh, well, now I need a book deal. Oh, I've got a book deal. And then it's, oh, but that book needs to sell and somebody needs to stock it. And it just goes on. And now I need to replicate that. And I don't think you have any clue. And I think if you did have a clue that that's how much further you still have to go and you keep going, I don't know whether I would have started off writing. I think, well, no, I wouldn't have started. It wouldn't, not that. I think I would have always written. I think it would have been nice to maybe know that it wasn't going to be all plain sailing and, having a book out there wouldn't suddenly gain me a load of adoration and money and wonderful book tours that I see some people going on. I wish I'd have known that the different, the spectrum really of what writing is and what success is and how so much of it isn't under our control, what sells.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, you come into it and you really are rosy spectacled about it. It's just, I've said it like repeatedly, that your whole, I say, knowledge of publishing, your whole perspective, it comes by what you see. Like, and I always refer back to TV movies. where, like their editors sent them off on a cruise so they can finish off their book.
Yes.
And they have these amazing launch parties filled with champagne and loads of people. So you kind of that's the image you kind of have ingrained in your head.
I remember a Murder, She Wrote where exactly that happened, where she was like, yes, I'm on this cruise because I handed my book in early and this is a gift from my publisher. I remember that episode. Like, has that ever happened to any? And now we're being fed it by Netflix. Look at this.
Yeah,
look at this
you do.
Scottish castle. Look at this. Or just having this, that recent one with Laura Dern. I can't remember what it was called now. Where
and is it Liam Hemsworth? I haven't watched it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that one. Come to this beautiful writers' retreat for free, just for free. We're fed that, aren't we? Yeah. We would like a little bit of that. That'll be all right.
No, I think the equivalent you get is just like meeting your other writer friends in Costa.
Yeah.
That's as extravagant as it gets.
It is. Or maybe somebody in Waterstones actually saying, yes, we do stop the book. That's the most we can hope for.
What were you doing before? So what was that? Who were you before? Who was Jo Jakeman before she became Jo Jakeman, the author?
Kind of a few things. I was a recruitment consultant, was my main job really before. But I gave up work a few years before starting to write for a few reasons. My mum getting cancer and it wasn't very good prognosis. I got signed off with chronic fatigue syndrome. Understandably, there was a lot going on. And I decided I couldn't go back to an office job and I wanted babies and I couldn't have babies naturally. So the whole IVF thing. So I spent years just managing my health and managing my family. And I've got my beautiful boys now. And then it was a case of, I don't want to, I want to be there for my family. I don't want to go into an office and be dragged here and there. Because as a recruitment consultant, like my clients might be in York one day and Brighton the next. I was on the train a lot and I couldn't do that. And I'd always kind of taken a notebook on holiday with me and my relaxation would be writing in a notebook. And so I thought, well, let's see if I can make something of that. And it was only ever a hobby to keep my brain going whilst the kids had a nap or, when they started school, I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to get a proper job. And I don't really want to. Let me see if I can write books. And then I wanted something I could do from home that was flexible. And I'd been in quite a corporate world because I was a recruitment consultant for PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Oh, right.
And so it was very, very different. I'm just kind of scared of getting back into that again and getting so sick. And I thought that was going to be the only option for me. So, I'm incredibly grateful that I got that I got a book deal and I have been able to largely stay home with the kids. I mean, they're 16 now. They probably don't need me around, but I'm here. I'm still not going to leave them around. I'm still going to be that parent.
Whether they like it or not, Jo's around.
Yeah, I'm the helicopter parent.
But it's hard though, isn't it? When you think about that world, that corporate world, or any kind of, I say, high-pressured job, and that part of your life, because when I think about being a solicitor, it's very much structured and it's not, you don't really have control of your time and how it's organised. It's all arranged by someone else and you obviously have to answer to someone else. Your time isn't your own. And even the time in between, in between you going to see clients and returning back to the office, that time isn't your own either. Because I remember they'll say, one of my bosses would say, oh, well, you don't drive, like just take the train, meaning you can do work on the train. I'm like, I don't want to do work on the train. I want to sit in the car and sing along to the radio for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
or
you need
2 hours while I drive to Bristol. And then go to court and come back. Like you need that space.
You need that. And I found as well with that kind of job, especially when I was living in London, the social life was part of the job, like the networking with your colleagues, because you're kind of like, well, who's going to work with me on this contract? There was a lot of like, if you weren't there for the drinks on that night, then you're not getting the job. You've not got the ear of the senior partner. And so it was an all-encompassing, my social life and everything was based around my job. And then as soon as you're out of that loop, when you're either doing something for yourself, your family, your kids, I feel like you're already slightly forgotten. You're already out of that loop. When it's that competitive and you've got targets, it's really difficult to maintain.
Yeah, I always used to say that I never drank as much until I became qualified as a solicitor, and I worked for a firm in Soho. And because I was working for a firm in Soho, I couldn't drive. So I'm always on, got to get the train to work, the train to court, back. So, and then the social life is part of being a lawyer, because you have to socialise with the barristers, because the barristers won't work with you, and then you obviously you want to know what barristers you want to work with, and it's this to and fro, and it's continuous all the time.
It
and
is.
and then when I stopped, I think when I took redundancy, and then it slowed down, because then I was controlling my life and how I choose, the days I wanted to work, and you realise in that social side kind of drifts away, and it takes an adjustment also, because it's so ingrained in you.
Yeah. And I think when we're working in that environment, we think that we're being looked after by our employers because there's a gym on site and there was a hairdresser's on site. You don't need to go anywhere. You can just live within these walls and in this life. And you think, oh, aren't they good? But they're not. Meaning you never go home, and you know you're not going home. So, you get some perks, but are they perks? I think it just sucks you in, and there's no life outside of it. And I couldn't go back to that. Once I was out of it, I knew that was why I was completely burnt out, when I couldn't go back.
I always say to the baby lawyers when I'm teaching them, I always say to them, make sure you've got something outside of this.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is your career, so this is what you want to do, because obviously we're in this room together and I'm training you so you can cross-examine people in court. But have something outside of this job, because this job will become all consuming and you can lose yourself in it, and you need to just keep a hold of yourself. So I'm like, whether you just I said, I don't care if you like baking, or you just like going ice skating, or you just want to paint a couple of days a week. I said, have something.
Yeah, remember who you are within it. Definitely. I once did a talk to university students of MA in creative writing, and they do that question like, what advice would you give to our students? And I was like, become an accountant. It's something you leave at the door. You can go home. And they all looked at me a bit, and I was like, I'm joking. No, my advice is read a lot. Because nobody wants the truth, really, do they? Because they go into it, they've got so much hope and potential, and those, the rose-tinted glasses we talked about, and you don't want to take hope away from people and that excitement, and they don't want to hear it when you go, it's not going to be like that. Well, very, very slim chance it's going to be like that for you, because they'll think they're going to be that one that are going to somehow balance it all and be a success, no matter what career you're looking at, I guess.
I think you need that, though. Everyone needs to have that. You need something to aim for. You need some big glittering jewel in the sky to say, like, that is within my reach. Because you said if you're told the truth, you either don't believe it. Because I remember when I was doing my creative writing MA, and I can never remember the author. An author came in, and she was explaining to us how, once you sign, it could take 2 years from your book to go from being signed with the publisher to being on the shelf. And we were like, 2 years? What are you talking? It doesn't take 2 years because you've written the book. Why would it take 2 years? And then she was explaining how difficult it is to not only get into supermarkets, but how much influence the supermarkets have on the book itself in terms of book covers and titles and things. And we were like, nah, she's just, I don't know what she's doing, but no, she's just not
saying it all fake for no reason.
just like for no reason, and just that's not how it works. And then you get into it, you sign, and then I remember the first publisher I met, it's like, and it was 2019. It's like, so we'll think about publishing your book in 2021. I was like, what? When 2019? What do you mean 2021?
Yeah, it's done. It's ready to go. Let's get it in the shelves next month.
It can go. Yeah, exactly. What do you mean 2 years? And then the supermarket thing as well. And I said it before with my first book, The Jigsaw Man. The font is in orange now, but on the proofs the font was white. Yeah. So The Jigsaw Man was white, and I think my name was white. And they obviously they're talking to the supermarket, and the supermarket said it didn't look finished. So because of that, they changed the colour of the font. And it worked. They changed it from white to orange, which was better.
More eye-catch.
Yeah, it was more. So they had a point. However, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have believed that the supermarkets would have had that much impact in your work.
Yeah. Everybody has a say in it, and I think a lot of people who don't write don't understand. Because I was talking to my mother-in-law. She's in hospital at the moment, and I go and like we just chat a lot. She's always saying, "How's your books going? How's this going? How's that going?" And I sort of say, "Well, I've just got my edits back," and she's like, "Oh, you don't let somebody else tell you how to write your book, do you?" And it's not quite that. It's somebody's trying to make it better, and somebody's pointing out I've had 3 Tuesdays in a row, and and I don't think other people understand the impact. Like, actually, what we've done is actually a small part of the whole package. If it fails, it's all on us. But if it succeeds, then it's a group effort. And I think people don't understand. I think I didn't understand. I think I thought really that editors would fact check for me as well. I thought they would. Yeah, I kind of figured that. I'm not sure if it works like that, but surely they've got people. They have people who'll do that. And no, that is on me. So yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful for the editors and people who find, who pick out those things where I've got put the wrong. I mean, I had on my edits that have just come back, they've pointed out, you've said here she's got all boys, and 3 pages later she talks about her daughter. Like, whoa, you saw that.
Isn't it amazing how much you miss when you get your edits back?
At some point, as I'm writing, and I've re-edited it and I've changed it. Oh, it'd be better if she had all boys, and I've not picked it up. So thank goodness for those other eyes looking at it, and like other people looking at the cover of Jigsaw Man and going, it needs to pop more, because I don't think we can see it because we're a little bit too close, aren't we?
No, you can't see it at all. And the thing is, when you're debut and you've just got, it's just your proof, but it's your book, and that's the first time you've got your book in your hands for the first time. As far as you're concerned, well, this is it. I've made it. Like, what more is there to do? Like, I've got my book, and you're so excited, and then someone pops along and says, "Nah, this will not do."
Yeah, absolutely. And and I know we're told not to look at our reviews. A lot of people say don't look at the reviews, and you'll get loads of those amazing reviews and they'll be great, and then you'll get that 1-star, 2-star review, and that hurts, doesn't it? Because it feels like a personal attack, because you've put so much of yourself into, especially when it's your debut. I think I'm far thicker skinned about all that kind of stuff now, but when it was my debut, it hurt when somebody was like, I don't really know. Like, whereas with this one, the book that's just come out, I had one bad review that really stuck out. It was a 2-star review, and it said, could have been a good story in a better author's hands. I was like, oh, wow.
I had to say that because my mouth was just open.
Yeah, and I just think, I wonder why you said that, but thanks. And actually, I kind of read that, and I sort of laughed about it, kind of like spat out my tea a bit, went, all right, cheers. And then I move on, and I don't think about it. Whereas with my first book, I constantly look, and I'd kind of want to reply to them and say, well, I'm sorry you think that. Did
you ever reply?
No, I've never replied, but there have been times when I've wanted to. And also with my first book, I got, somebody tried to sue me for defamation of character, thinking one of my characters was based on them. So I've been very sensitive about, since then, like, I'm very sensitive about making sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So now I write with the reader in mind, where I didn't do that with my first book, because you don't, do you? But now I'm so scared somebody's going to see something and go, is that me? But yeah, I know.
I've had ex-clients email me and ask me if they're in the book. And I'm like, no, because I didn't represent you for murder. You're not a serial killer, as far as I know. So no, like, you're not in the book. But I think they want to be in the book. They want that recognition. But for someone to, assume that the character is them, and then to go as far as to try and take legal action.
Yep, they hired Carter Ruck, and so
Seriously?
they went big. They went big, and they said that the antagonist in my book was based on them. And I mean, the book was about domestic abuse, and they felt that they were the domestic abuser. And I'd already spoken to my editor about, where I had taken from sort of real life, and so she was very clear. We were all very clear. And she actually said, nobody's going to say anything, because nobody's going to put their hand up and go, that was me. Because people don't say that. But there was one thing in this book that said this person was investigated for gross misconduct in their job, and they said, I don't want anybody thinking that I was investigated for gross misconduct. And I thought, you don't care if somebody thinks that you are capable of domestic abuse. And that was telling. And basically it all fell apart because, I had to do a point by point, because he was like, I had a colleague called Chris, and this person's got a colleague called Chris, and I had to do a point by point. Wow. We've all had a colleague called Chris.
Yeah, more than one.
Yes. I had to go through all of this. And basically, the upshot was, nobody is linking this book to you unless you pursue this. And then they're going to link the book to you. So that's how it all fell apart, really. But but my publishers were excellent. They were like, because he basically wanted money. He was like, he wanted damages for his reputation. And the publishers were like, he is not getting a penny. They were so angry on my behalf. They were brilliant, because I felt sick. I felt like I'd let everything down, my publishers down, the whole lot. I felt really sick. And they went, this is a book about domestic abuse and somebody's trying to silence you. That's not happening. So, I would have loved to have talked about it a bit more, but because if I do say too much and things are linked to this person, then he has a case. So I can't really even talk about it much, apart from very vague terms. But it really ruined me for my second book, because I second guessed everything and I lost all my confidence in writing. And so, I used to take things very, very personally, because, and this last book that I've just written, One Bad Apple, it's about a murder of a headmaster in a prestigious boys' school. My kids went to a boys' school a few years back. They're in state school now. They went to this prestigious boys' school. I actually kind of contacted the teachers going, please read this and make sure it doesn't sound like any of you. Because I was like, I was so scared somebody was going to go, I'm suing you because, you're saying this. And they all read it and went, it's all right, we don't recognise anybody.
But that's such an unnecessary additional pressure on you as a writer that you do not need. And especially, how hard it is to write that second book.
Yeah.
Because that first book, for whatever reason, you always say you don't write it under the pressure of a contract. Yeah. Like, you may have written it when I wrote mine, I may have written it because I had to submit it in time for the deadline, so I wouldn't fail the course. Yeah. But, no one was paying me money for it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. I didn't know what was going to happen to the book afterwards. So I didn't have that pressure of the second book. You're under contract, and you want it to be just as good as the first one, and you want to make sure readers come. There's all these additional pressures and what you don't need on top of that is wondering, am I going to get anyone coming to me saying they're going to sue me because they think it's about them? That's horrible.
Yeah, it was different. I'm really pleased that my publishers at the time were great, because we had to rework that second book quite a lot, because what I dialed in was really quite surface level. Because I was scared to really go there. And so I had to work quite a lot with my editor to really bring that book out, because I felt quite stifled creativity, with my creativity at that point. And like I say, I wouldn't say I'm over it, but it's always there in the back of your mind when you're writing something. Because I think sometimes we don't realise that we've picked something that somebody will do, or there might be something in a book and somebody will say, oh, hold on, did we do that? Wasn't that not? Oh, yeah, maybe that's come to mind. We do to a certain extent. I always say we're like magpies, because they always say to you in the beginning, write what you know, in a sense. It may not be what happened to you personally, but write what you're aware of. And so you do. And I do think as writers, regardless of whatever genre you're writing in, you are a bit of a magpie, and you'll pick little bits here and there of, it might be a conversation you overhear when you're on the bus, or it might be, something you might have spoken about with a relative or something. So you do, or just a characteristic, or you saw the way someone picked up a cup and you thought, that's a very strange way to pick up a cup, and it sticks in your head and you put it in a character. And I think we all, I do that. We all do that. And I think a lot of our writing, the most powerful writing, is when it has a grain of truth in it, so that you're really connecting with that feeling of fear or whatever it happens to be. And that's probably come from something you've been scared of in the past, or your fear of loss, or any of those things. A lot of it comes from a personal place, because that's the best writing you can do, is when it's authentic. but without going, obviously, I'm basing it all on you, which I do try very hard not to do. You know, I really am, you know, I really do think about that now in a way that I didn't think about previously.
I just find it so, I mean, it's what you were saying. It's like the book's about, automatically, I just want to say DV because that's what we're saying in court, like for DV
Yes.
cases, so domestic violence.
Yeah.
But, you know, the book's about domestic violence. But your issue is not the fact that you would be associated with domestic violence, but the idea that you would have done something wrong in your job.
Yeah.
And that's the disconnect that
is.
Both fascinates me and also just thinks, what on earth?
Yeah. And I can't believe Carteret, you know, sent the letters in the first place. Why nobody's looking at that and going, are you sure you want to go forward with this?
Wow.
Seems bonkers.
It doesn't seem it is bonkers. It's like absolutely bonkers. I would just keep I would have just kept my mouth shut, given you, if I had to be a bitch about it, I just would have gone on somewhere, Amazon or Goodreads or somewhere, Waterstones, give you a 1-star review and just go away.
Like a normal person,
like
right?
A normal person. I wouldn't go and instruct
person.
I would just be bitchy and petty. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go
legal route. Let's go straight for revenge on the pettiest level.
Be petty. I didn't think I had a petty streak, but no, I would just be petty.
Yeah. But it's a book sale, isn't it? You read my book, so
this is what I always say. This is what after like the first book came out, and you said you get the reviews or people get in contact with you on DM on whatever social media platform. And initially those I would respond to because I'm like, oh, someone's taken the time. And if it was like a sensible question or a query or what they thought was a correction, I would respond. But after I think I did it about 3-4 times, I thought, I've had enough of this. I'm not doing that anymore. And then, you know, you was talking about like the review you read and you just end up laughing at the end of it. And with my third book, and the only reason I read it was because I think the Kill List at the time, it hadn't actually been published yet.
Okay.
Oh, I don't think it'd been, maybe it had been published. And there was this 1-star review just floating around on Goodreads. I'm like, what on earth is this 1-star review about?
Yeah.
And normally I just wouldn't bother. And I thought curiosity got the better of me. And all it said was boring. And I just started laughing. I just thought, this what? Literally, I was like, is that it? You couldn't even put any work into it. You just wrote boring. And I know my books are not boring.
No, they are not boring. That's the last thing they are. Oh my gosh.
I just laugh. Every time I think about it, I'm just like boring. And I just chuckle. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. See, I think somebody, it might have been Louise Beach, the author, did a whole sort of poem made up of her negative reviews. And the sort of chorus at the end of it, each verse was, I'd give it 0 stars if I could. And I thought it was a really good way of just laughing about those reviews because it does tell you a lot more about the person leaving the review. And, you know, and that 2-star review that said would be a better story in another author's hands has now disappeared. I don't know whether they took the review down or what. I find that quite strange. I was like, somebody taking this poor person out? Or my publisher got some kind of like hit team. I don't know what's going on. But there was my 2-star review is now gone and I'm now missing it a little bit.
Review hit team. I love it. Listeners, it's time for a very short break. If you're enjoying this conversation with Nadine Matheson and want to help keep the podcast going, why not buy me a cup of coffee? Your support goes such a long way in keeping these conversations flowing. Just check out the link in the show notes. Going back to when you did your course, you did it with Curtis Brown, didn't you?
I did, yes.
You did, yeah. I did my research. You
have, yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah, but how did you feel in that initial, you know, like I say that initial, the first time you stepped into a classroom, when you've been, I suppose that's not what you trained for, if that makes sense. And you've just been writing your notes in your notebook when you was on holiday. And now you're in this, forum with other writers. What was that? How was it? Yeah.
It was so exciting, isn't it? Because you feel like you're doing something to take you forward in your craft and you've been accepted, you've applied, you've accepted. So you have a feeling of like, oh, I've got something here. So you go in very, very like optimistic and excited by it. But then that was the first time I was peer reviewed, and you've got 14 other people on this course trying to improve your writing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was in tears more than once going, I can't actually do this. It turns out I'm rubbish. And there's a lot of people as well on there. They were like quoting like Camus and stuff, and like books that I even emailed the guy who was running it, who's like doing all the admin for it, and I said, I think there's a mistake letting me onto this course, because everybody here has done an MA or they've done this, and they're all done degrees in literature. And he went, oh no, it's always like this the first few weeks. Everybody waves their willy, shows how much they know, all settle down, just hang in. And so I did, and it was great. And actually I owe it everything, really, because that first like especially the opening, like the working on the opening with my peers and them going, just little things like, oh, can't quite see this. Could you be clearer on that? Remember, we're not in your head. Could you describe, like, okay. And I'd go back and I rework. And then when the course finished, so finished in like the September, and then York Festival of Writing, the competitions they do, Friday Night Live and Best Opening Chapter. The stuff I'd been working on the course, I put into Friday Night Live, got shortlisted for that, went and won it. And that's how I met my agent. And that was the work of like 14 other voices as well, picking that opening apart. And and I'm not sure I would have got to that point without seeing how other people saw my work and going what worked for them and what didn't, and also being able to pick those other writers that were never my readership group. So when they're going, well, I don't like this and this doesn't work for me, being able to go, yeah, but I'm not trying to go for the middle-aged bloke with this one, who reads Camus. You're not my audience. So I'm it was really, really useful for me to see how other people reacted to my writing, because that's what you don't have when you're sitting in your room and writing. So I really think that made all the difference. But yeah, there were one or two times when I called my husband and gone, they hate it, everybody hates it. But I had also worked out how many people are successful on this course. I'd worked out how many people have got publishing deals, how many courses they'd run. And I worked out it was like 1.6 people per course run get a publishing deal. So I had it in my head, I needed to be in the top 1.6%. So I put everything into that course, because I was like, I will be that top person in this class. Because I'm quite, I do like my statistics and things like that. And I know a lot of this, we know a lot of this is luck. But I'm still in touch with a lot of the people from that course. And at the moment, I'm still the only one traditionally published. A few of them have gone on to self-publish. But I was always going to be that 1.6%. And
I think
on board all of that, what I saw as criticism at the time, but really did harden me up and make me a better writer for sure.
Because I always say, it doesn't matter how experienced you may have been or the amount of years you've spent in your other job, in your other profession, and how proficient you were in that job. When you then move into something, it could be anything. I don't know, you could be doing pottery for the first time. You move into something new, and all of a sudden it's like your first day at school. You don't know anyone. You feel like you don't know anything. Actually, I equate it to the first day I went into court after I qualified. And, you do all the academic stuff, you do all the theory stuff, all the practicals. And I walked into court, and my first thought was, I don't even know where to stand, and I've made a mistake. Literally, that was, and I didn't know where to stand because no one told me that. Like, where do you stand if you're the defense in court? But I honestly remember thinking, I've made a mistake. Like, all them years, what was I thinking? But you have to go through those moments. Yeah, you're so out of your depth. Yeah, and it's the same as when I did similar to you when I started the creative writing masters, and that first time of the first piece of work that I wrote, and I think it was on. I think we had to do an assignment on character. I think we had to introduce someone. It's introduced in 1,000 words, and I wrote this piece, and then everyone else's piece gets submitted, and I think we started off with 12 in a group, and then we ended up with just 10. And you read everyone else's work, and you're like, "Oh my good God!" Like, what is this? Not in a bad way, but in like, they're so good. And why am I here? What am I doing? Someone made a mistake. And I'd won a competition, which was why I was on the course. And I was still thinking that way, like, nah, this is a mistake. But then the best thing it did, it introduces you to I was going to say peer pressure, but no, being read by your peers. And being critiqued. And there's that, and having to sit in the criticism. Like, you can't run away from it. You're sitting you're sitting around a table and everyone's giving their opinion. You have to sit with that. And then you kind of have to get your ego out of the way and be like, actually, you might be right. Actually, no, I think, 6 weeks later, no, you are right. Which is why I dedicated my first, the Jigsaw Man, I dedicated it to my group, because everyone had a say in it.
Yeah.
Even down to, I'm sorry.
It's hard, isn't it? Like, even with like editors now, like I'll still like get editorial comments back, and I'll have to sit with them for a while, because my first reaction is kind of like, well, first, like the fear of opening the email. Is she going to hate it? She hates it. I can't write. And then when you do open it and it's like, well, I'm not sure about this character. And you go, oh yeah, I love that character. And having to sit with it a minute and go, okay, is she right? Or whatever it is that they've picked up on. Well, I'll strengthen it then, because I want that character to stay. I will make it the character it is in my head. It's finding that, isn't it? Not having a knee-jerk reaction or just saying, fine, yeah, I'll change it to your vision. There's a certain amount of strength that you need in that to be able to take on criticism, know which is the right stuff, but also when to stick to your guns. And I think that is really difficult when you start in this industry, because you do tend to think, well, everybody knows better than me in all of these. Like when you're doing your MA, when you're doing your course and you look at other people's work and you go, well, they know what they're doing. They've obviously been around this more than I have. They probably know better. And I think, I've done that a lot with, especially like foreign deals, like when people have sort of come up with, like, I didn't like the title that the Americans came up with for my first book, because
I'm going to say it's random. And then like the X's, I'm like, how do you go from Sticks and Stones to the X's Revenge? It's like I couldn't do the word association.
No, and I hated it. I hated it, but I thought, well, they know their market. They know their market. Go for it. If you think it's going to work, go for it. It didn't do that well, to be honest. My book before this one, What His Wife Knew, hated that title. It changed a huge amount of times. So originally, it was Dead to Me when I first wrote it, but then a big series came out. I think it was a Netflix series called Dead to Me. And there was too many, they didn't want that. So my editor at the time came up with Who Killed Oscar Lomas, who was the main character. Actually, he wasn't the main character. He was originally called Rick. And it's Who Killed Rick Lomas. And I went, that sounds like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, it does.
And she spoke to marketing and they came back and said, I think the name Rick's too American. Could you come up with a more Englishy name? So I changed into Oscar, which really then changed his character to me. A Rick and an Oscar were different. And then his brother had to change name because it needed to be something that his parents would. So his brother became a Harvey. So much changed for that title. And then when it came down to it, my Canadian publishers went, we think that our readers might think that it's a true crime story. They don't know who Oscar Lomas is. So we're going to call it What His Wife Knew. And then my British publishers went, okay. So much had changed. And I said yes to the Canadian one because I thought, again, you know your market. I didn't like the title because I didn't want my main character to be his wife in the What His Wife Knew. I didn't like it, but I thought, fine. But then my UK editors went, we don't want the same thing as happened before in America where we had two different titles. So now we'll go with What His Wife Knew. And I wish I'd pushed back on that, but I was in that whole, you know better than I do. What do I know? And then I've not been saddled with, but, I have titles that I don't think represent the book. And titles are so important for somebody to pick that book up in the first place. I just find it a bit passive, a title, really.
It kind of goes back to, I was saying before, like in your previous life, in your previous jobs, you are so sure of yourself and sure of your position and your role. And if you have to argue a point or make a point or say no to someone, you can do that quite definitively. And you're not thinking about the repercussions of it. You're just not. You're like, I've heard you. This is what I think. End of. But with this, you're like, maybe you must be right. Even though something inside your gut is like, no. I had that
with this job that I've never had with any other role is I'm scared to rock the boat with this. Like in any other job, I was, like you say, I was like confident in my footing. I knew what I was doing. I knew the job inside out. With this job, I'm thinking if I rock the boat, because I don't know whether I'm going to get another contract. There's a million authors behind me wanting this. I don't want to be the awkward author, although I see a lot of awkward authors still getting all their book deals and things, but I'm trying to be the nice author who always meets the deadlines, who doesn't kick up too much of a fuss. And I don't think that gets you anywhere, to be honest. It doesn't get me the loyalty that I thought it would.
No. Oh God, what was I gonna? It's gone out of my head now. No, that's it. I think what it is that I think there's this feeling that when a publisher takes you on and they give you the deal, whether it's a 1-book deal, 2-book deal, whether you get 10 grand, 100 grand, whatever, I feel like you feel grateful, and there's this whole notion of gratitude. And because you're so grateful that someone has taken a chance on you, now your book's going to be out there somewhere. You don't want to rock the boat. You have to sit in that notion of gratitude and really, you can be grateful because you got a deal, you got your book, but that shouldn't then just stifle how you react, like going forward.
How grateful did you feel when you were a solicitor, or that sort of thing? Do you wake up, I'm so glad, thank you for giving me a job?
No, half the time I'd wake up and I'd be like, I'm knackered because I've been in the police station since 4. I've just come home. I've had 3 hours sleep, if that, 2 hours sleep, and now I've got to go to court. Or I've been stuck on a trial for 3 months, and really what I want to do now is have a week off and not, just sit in the office for a week. But I can't do that because I've got another trial starting on Monday. So I never felt, I'm so glad you're giving me. I mean, I like getting paid, but it's like you don't have that notion of gratitude, and then you'll just take anything.
No, exactly. You feel that it's because it's almost like a partnership. They're paying you to do something, and you do that job to the best of your ability. And they've got to uphold their end of the bargain as well. And if they're not a decent employer, you go elsewhere because you have the choice. And you start looking elsewhere. Whereas here, with this,
you can't look.
Yeah, no. Imagine if I started phoning up other editors, going, "I'm not really sure about this. What might you offer me? What perks might you offer me if I jumped ship and came to work for you instead?" It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't.
It shouldn't be a light bulb moment for me, because it's like, it's obvious what you're saying. Like, I would not get off, like when we finish our conversation, I'm not going to get off come off my StreamYard with you and then just go through all the editors I know I've bumped into in the past, suddenly email them and be like, I'm calling them Steve.
Let's do
lunch, Steve. You just want to do that. Well, first my agent would be like, Nadine, what are you playing at? Like, what are you playing at? This is not how it works. But you just wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't dream of it, would you?
No.
It's a bizarre industry, and we've all signed up for it.
I think I've had I think it's 88 conversations I've had so far. And you find it very difficult to find someone who hasn't said, this industry is just strange. I don't understand it. And it doesn't matter whether they're a debut or whether they're 10 books in, whether they've been doing it for 2 years or been doing it for 15, 20 years. Everyone has said something similar along those lines of this industry. Like it is a really like a love-hate relationship with it.
It is. We've still got that hope, haven't we, as well? That we're coming back to what we were saying before. We've still got the hope that this is all going to work out, and we're going to get paid a decent wage for what we're doing, and we are able to do something we love. And if I wasn't getting paid, I would still write. That's where it is. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd still write. Taking that out of it, I would still write. It's what I want to do. It's what I do to make sense of stuff in my head. It's what I do to relax. It's you need that creative side of things. So we know we're going to do it anyway. So we are going to put up with a certain amount, aren't we? And we're scared it's going to be taken from us.
Yeah, that's the reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
God.
It is.
What has all this taught you about yourself, though, Jo? this whole process? It's an ongoing journey.
No idea. I don't know. I think I lost myself for a few years, especially having the kids and stuff, and like being only existing as an extension to the boy's mum and everything. And then when I was sued after the first book, I lost my confidence a huge amount. And so it's taken me probably to the last couple of years to feel like myself again and be a little bit more forceful in what I'm writing. So now I feel like I'm through all that, and I'm feeling now quite resilient and quite strong and not scared to speak my mind. And I know it's not like I know that, especially as women and everything, we kind of go, someone goes, I love your book, or whatever, oh yeah, well, it's not my best, or you kind of like, but I started to say a bit more like, I'm really proud of this book, you should read it, I love it. I've stopped being so apologetic. I think that's what I've learned about myself, that being nice and like kowtowing to people, everything, it gets you nowhere. And so yeah, I've learned a lot about myself, probably when it's been the most difficult, when when the money's not been coming in through the book, from the books, when life's a bit of a bin fire, the whole world's a bin fire, and just controlling what you can control, not getting so stressed about it. I'm getting a lot better at that now. I mean, I'm also in therapy, which probably helps.
Therapy makes the world a difference.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
I might dedicate my next book to my therapist, to be honest.
Can you see that changing yourself? So feeling more confident and so not kowtowing to anyone. Can you see that being reflected in the way you write?
Yeah, for sure. Or in a really bizarre way. So when I wrote One Bad Apple, people were saying, "Oh, this is a change of direction for you," and I didn't realise it was a change of direction, and it is cozier than my other ones. And I honestly had not chosen to do that. I hadn't sat down and gone, but like none of the murders happen on the page. It's happened already. Okay. So it's a mystery that they're trying to solve. And I think that what it is, I've always written about something that's affecting me or I'm trying to make sense of. So like domestic violence, or my third book dealt with suicide, because I'd lost a really wonderful friend to suicide. And there was a lot of issues that came up about that. So I'm writing about that, and that's dark and emotional stuff. And I'm throwing murders of their bodies in there as well, And then with this one, I just kind of sat down and I just wanted it. It naturally became more humorous as I was writing it. It was just a bit ridiculous in this really opulent setting of the school where like the kid, the parents with the Lexus, but then you've also got the one with the rusty van, because I was the one with the rusty car, and all that. And it became a funnier book and a lighter book. And then when people started saying to me, "Oh, we're changing direction. Why have you done that?" And I stopped and I thought, right now, I'm not saying I won't ever do it again, but I'm sick of mining my own trauma for entertainment. It feels like I was putting a bit too much of myself on the page. And I didn't realize I wasn't. I mean, I'm still in there. My humor, my observations, and everything is still in the book, and it still deals with bullying. And one of my kids was bullied, and I wanted to go in and throttle people at the school, and I wasn't allowed to, so I have to write a book about it instead. But yeah, I'm kind of done with kind of looking at the most painful parts of my life and go, oh, well, let's talk about child loss. Let's talk about violence. Let's talk about familial relationships. They will pop up, but I don't think they're going to be the focus of my books anymore. And I think a lot of that comes from being more comfortable in myself and not feeling that I'm a result of a lot of traumatic experiences. But completely didn't realise that that's what I was doing until actually I wrote the next book after One Bad Apple, and my editor went, "Whoa, that's a bit dark." And I was like, "It's not that good as your first one." And in the end, she wanted something a lot cozier, so I parked that book for another project. I've had to write one that's a lot sort of cozier, which I've really loved writing again because it wasn't traumatic. So it's strange that I think my writing, you could probably look at my mental state by plotting my books and seeing how that's changed. So I think I'm just in a better place generally.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a
literally as
journey
well.
of you.
Yeah, I mean, we live in Cornwall now, and I swear that's why there's more romance writers down here. They're all walking along the beach, holding hands, and
on the
I
sand, watching the sunset,
so
feeling the
I think
water between your toes.
exactly, it's easy to do romance down here. But yeah, so I think just generally far more positive now.
I was going to ask you, even though I feel like you kind of have to be, spoken around it. One bad apple. Because I always ask, would you like to tell the listeners of the conversation about your book? One bad apple.
One bad apple. It is about the murder of a headmaster, a beloved headmaster at a prestigious boys' school in the southwest, and it's a bit of a locked room mystery. There's his PA outside his door. The school is locked. There's a cricket match going on outside his window. Of all the parents there, grandparents visiting school. And then he's found dead in his office. Apparently nobody could get in or out. So how did it happen? And he's beloved and nobody wants to kill him. But actually, it unfolds. But it's a lot about bullying and about bullying as an adult, about how, and that's come about because when I was annoyed with the boy who was bullying my kid, I then thought, hold on, he's got those views from somewhere. Oh, the parents. And then I'm eyeballing the parents across the cricket the pitch and sort of saying, all right, that's what you teach your son, is it? And then you're realising, well, he's acting out because he's got a bad home life. And then you realise there's also pressures from the other parents. And there's a lot in the book with WhatsApp groups where the parents they're sort of solving the crime, but they're also bullying each other. And I've been part of some of those WhatsApp groups. And it doesn't change, does it? We think it changes from school, but actually you've still got your cliques.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't. So so it's about a murder of a headmaster, but it's also about the continuing bullying and cliques and never quite fitting in.
It's weird because when I first started teaching, because I was teaching in the law school, and it's freelance. So I'm up there like every day. But I remember the first class I taught, and because in the law school, so they're postgraduates. So let's say the youngest is, how old are you when you graduate? 21. So yeah, the youngest would probably be 21, 22. And because law school, you can have mature students to whatever. And I honestly thought, in my head, you're in law school now. You paid a lot of money to come here because it's not cheap. You're postgraduates as well. I just assumed wrongly they're going to behave a certain way. And I had this group and I'm watching the dynamics in the group, and you can see the little cliques that are developing, and some of it's to do with where you did your undergraduate degree. Yeah. So it is the Oxbridge versus basically everyone else, and then those who have money and those who don't have money. And then I'm seeing the bullying take place on the table of these students. And I'm like, what? Honestly, I'm like, what is wrong with you? You are, in my head, I'm thinking, you are grown-ups. You should not be paying to come to law school and behaving this way. I shouldn't have a student, which I did, have a student coming to me at the end of the class upset. And I'm saying, I'm like, yes, I've seen it, and you deal with it. Yeah. And I was annoyed at myself for being shocked.
Yeah. But I mean, workplace bullying's a big thing as well, not just in the studying, like you get to workplace and there's cliques and there's bullying and there's everything in the workplace. There's, there are parents that talk to each other and parents that don't, when my boys join their new school, and I'm standing there on the outskirts where all the moms who've known each other for ages are all chatting and like looking over at me. And, and you're like, oh my God, it's like being at school again. And I'm nearly 50. This should not bother me anymore. And it always will.
Yeah. I'm always thinking, I'm too old for this. I'm tired. Like, aren't you tired?
Why put your energy into this?
Yeah. My knees hurt. I should have taken my Cod-Liver and I didn't. It's like, who's time for this?
It's true.
What are you before we go into your last 4 questions?
Yes.
What are you working on next?
I don't know. I'm doing an MA in writing for script and screen at the moment.
Are you?
Yeah. So it's a part-time course. So I'm through the first year. It's a 2-year course. I've just started the second year. So I do have to write another book, and I am working on ideas for it. But at the moment, we're just finalising the book that comes out next September. So I'm just doing proof pages, and I should already really be into an idea for the next book after that. And I don't have any fully fleshed ideas because I'm finding it quite difficult to focus on two different mediums, and I'm so excited and into the whole script and screenwriting at the moment. And I'm quite like a nerd about that, and I'm getting really obsessed by book to screen adaptations, and why like 25% of the top viewed programs on Netflix at the moment have come from either books or comic books. They're all sort of IP basically. So I'm kind of fascinated by all that. So I'm this module, I am looking at how I would adapt my book for screen. So I'm actually looking at how I would adapt One Bad Apple. And it's and that in itself gives me more of an insight into how the book works and how different it is for a visual medium, and what works better in a book and what works better on television. And it's, you know, it's blowing my mind in such a good way. But it's also stopping me getting into my next book because I'm thinking too much about, oh, I'd love this to get adapted for screen. So how would I make it work on screen without losing something that is so precious about a book? So I'm just so into that at the moment. I almost can't think about writing. In my head, I've thought I'll start the new book in January. As long as I've got an idea by the end of this year that it's all worked out, I will start writing the new book in January.
Did you not find it? Because I did a TV screenwriting course with Curtis Brown. Yeah. And God, and my pilot is still.
Sorry, my cuckoo clock's just gone off.
Oh,
what's all that sound? As if I should have switched that off. I'm so sorry.
We might keep it in. It's all right. I keep it in. No, but I was saying I did my TV screenwriting course with Curtis Brown, and the pilot is still on my computer, not finished. But I found it, and I need to get my head around this. I found it not hard, but I had to work really hard on switching my brain from screenwriting from prose writing, novel writing to script writing.
Yeah.
Like it was hard actually. It's such an effort.
Really difficult.
I could do it, but it wasn't, I couldn't just switch it like this. I had to work my way into it.
Of course, I'm thinking, well, I know, you're going to teach me about character. I know about character. You're going to teach me, I know about plot. You know, so I came into it thinking I knew a lot. Now, like, teach me the magic on telly, but actually, like, the whole thing about like the symbols within stuff, and just having not she walked into the room and sat down, and trying to do so much with dialogue without having all that inner monologue going, which I rely on quite a lot in my books, which I didn't realize until this, and trying to convey so much with so little. It's been a real eye-opener for me. And I'm like now the worst person to watch a film with. So I'm like, do you see what they did there? Oh, yeah. So and look at the motif going through it. I'm now the worst. And I do find it difficult if I've been having like a few days working on a script. When I then go back to writing the book, I find it difficult to get my brain into that kind of like the descriptive mode and everything. I do think it will help my novel writing because I'm learning to put a lot more into a lot less, by using the symbols and things and really making the dialogue count. And I always thought that dialogue was one of my things I was strongest at. How I realised actually there was a long way to go. I'm not at Succession level. All these kind of things that I really admire. It will definitely help. But it's the mediums are far more different than I expected them to be. I just thought it was another way of telling a story, and it is.
It's not.
But
it is, but it's, it's not.
It's not.
It's not just. I was say it's not just dialogue. Because that's what I think. That's what you think script writing is. You just put in the dialogue in. Forget about everything else. Just put the dialogue in, and it's not just throwing the dialogue in.
No, it's not at all. And I'm doing okay on the course. I'm getting the grades that I need. I'm still on course for a distinction, and yet I'm so frustrated with myself that they're going, oh well, you could have done this and you could have done that to elevate it even more. And I'm they're pointing out that it was just like the things that I'm just not bearing in mind. Like I submitted something to my tutor, and he went, "Is there a reason why all the bad guys are women in it?" Like, you know, what message are you sending? I was like, I wasn't really sending a message. I think I was having a bad day.
And you put it on the page.
I just put it on the page, and he's like, think about the messaging that you're putting through the mess. You know, I'm having to like think on a far different level.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I don't think I actively think about the messaging when I'm working on my book.
At the end, once I've written it, I'll then think about the themes and then make them stronger or something. Maybe I've got a vague idea when I start, but this is very much like page by page, make every scene work doubly hard. It shouldn't just be doing one thing, it should be doing three things. And like I say, I'm loving it, but this is pushing me out of my comfort zone so much.
But we need that. I think we need that sometimes to be pushed out of our comfort zones.
And I think when we've used writing as our creative outlet, I think it's important to have another creative outlet when that becomes your job. So this is my other thing that I can let off steam with now. I
didn't even think of that. I need to find another creative outlet then.
Yeah.
I'll never think about it.
Paint? Can you paint? Can you knit?
You know what? I was thinking about all the things I used to do when I was like in primary school. It's like I used to knit because we had I don't know how it happened. We had a knitting club in school, and I used to do knitting. But then I also used to me and my brother were also in the chess club.
Oh, nice.
We used to go after school. And so I'm gonna have to regress back to my childhood and see what I used to do. All right, Jo, your questions. Are you an introvert or extrovert or a hybrid of the two?
Hybrid of the two. Definitely. I'd like to say I'm an introvert, but I'm actually fine with people, but then I will need to sleep for 3 days.
Just withdraw from the world.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. What challenge or experience in your life shaped you the most? And people always think these are bad challenges or experiences. They can be good ones.
Yeah, I think parenthood for sure, like the struggle to become a mum and then bringing up twin boys. It's helped me develop a lot of patience. And it's, I know it's not always the popular thing to say, but I love being a mum more than anything else. It's like giving me so much meaning. So that's the thing that's really influenced me the most, I think.
If you could go back to when you were 25 years old and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be to not sell that house. Do not sell the house and then just think you have lots of money to spend. Buy something else, Jo. Oh, my goodness. Why did you get off the property ladder, you fool?
You know what? That question is always, at some point, it always brings up either I should not have sold the house or I should have bought the house or should have bought the flat. Because when you were 25 years old, I'm assuming when you're in your 40s, when you were 20, everything was so cheap.
So cheap.
And you got 100% mortgage.
Yeah.
And I didn't. Those are the days. Yeah, I didn't buy it. And I went to see it and I had the offer and I didn't buy it.
I had the house, I moved out, I rented it to students, they made a mess of it. I thought I can't be doing with this hassle. Sold it, spent the money on a holiday. What an idiot.
You learn. We live and we learn. And try not to live in the past. We try to keep moving forward. So finally, Jo, where can listeners of the conversation find you online?
I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook at Jo Jakeman Writes. I try and be on Twitter as little as possible now because it's an absolute dumpster fire. Oh,
I deactivated my account today.
Did you?
So, you won't find me on there after, give you a month, I think. So, I think from now you won't find me on there anymore. Because I stopped.
And then I saw that I was tagged in a few reviews because I had the book come out a couple of months ago. And then I felt like I have to go on and say, well, thank you for your review, blah, blah, blah. But then you still see other things and you go, I shouldn't even come on here. So I think deactivating my account is probably a very good idea. But I just try not to go on now.
Yeah. The thing is, whilst it was still there, you were still like, oh, let me just pop in. And every time I popped, even though I wasn't using it, but every time I popped in, I was like, what on earth did I pop? Why? What? There's literally nothing. It's not how it used to be. It's not going to be what it used to be. And then today, I
just find it difficult to say goodbye to 5,000 followers because I don't have that kind of followers anywhere else.
No, I've said goodbye to five and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
And what I saw today when I deactivated it was a whole bunch of requests for people to follow. And I was like,
Oh,
you just have to find me somewhere else.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It'd be fine. It'd be fine.
It'll be fine. Of course it will.
It will. So, Joe Jakeman, that just leaves me to say thank you very much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's conversation with Nadine Matheson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a brand new episode featuring more amazing guests. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a review. It really helps the podcast grow. And if you'd like to support the show, you can buy me a cup of coffee or sign up on Patreon. The links are in the show notes. And if you'd love to join the conversation as a guest, feel free to send an email to theconversation@nadineMatheson.com. Thanks again for your support, and I'll catch you next time.